and feel free to provide input on this, but this is what I propose, all right? This is a very worthy slate of items, 3, 5, 8, 12, 19, 26, but let me call them out and make my proposal. 3 is revisit 5G, 5 is Lehigh and Stevens Creek Quarry, 8 is Memorial Park improvements, 12 is Lawrence Mitty, and 19 is the climate action plan, and 26 is investigate alternatives to City Hall. And this is just 6 out of the 53 items, 54 if you include the other item that we considered earlier. So why don't we just go through in order at this point instead of round robin format? And so if I don't see any objections to that, I do see 2 raised hands from Councilmember Willie and Councilmember Way. So Councilmember Willie, did you want to make a suggestion as to that proposal to start with 3, go to 5, then 8, etc.?
I like your proposal. I agree.
Okay. Councilmember Way, did you want to say something to that, speak to that?
Yes, actually, I would like to make a comment. I want to agree with Councilmember Moore. This is a high level city plan. I understand we want to go into details and change something, but this is the 4th time we're revisiting city work plan. So I remember we asked for quarterly report.
Mm-hmm.
Can we confirm that? So if we have a quarterly report and if some details come up, we can work then. I really think we need to pass it and then let the staff go on and work on it. Maybe minor changes, but the monetary placement, I believe the staff's not going to waste our money. And I think they do their best to estimate what might take. And if it doesn't be used, it will be coming back to next year. It happens all the time. I can see that. So I'm hoping that we can pass this with minor edits and not go into details and get a quarterly report on it so that we can move forward with it. That would be my proposal.
How about this? Okay, in an effort to streamline us, so to speak, let me allocate 5 minutes as a first impression on this to each of these items. I'll break out the timer. I mean, I think we've had an excellent discussion, but I think we're all united in our desire to, be efficient with the time. So let me try to go to this first item, and then let's talk about the 5G item. And so we'll go by, hands. We'll allocate a minute first and see, what the appetite is, and see if we can get to a resolution in that methodology. So Vice Mayor Chow, you have the first hand raised.
Okay, keep in mind, this document is not for us. It's not for the staff only. It's for the public. They are going to be linked on the City Council website. They are going to click on that and then see, why are we spending this much money on this thing? So if the description is not accurate or incorrect, in fact, we need to be sure that it's clear. So the public won't come back and say, why are you spending $250,000 just to change the distance?
30 seconds, Councilman Vice Mayor Chow.
So that's why I think these edits are important, because it clarifies where it's actually incorrect. And this right now, some items are very detailed, some items have like 2 lines. It's very inconsistent, the current program. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor Chow, if you would put your, and I'll start my time as well, you're at the end of your time. Okay, can you put your proposed edits on item number 3 up there? Okay, thank you. So revisit 5G plus recording, responding to complaints, transparency on existing applications. Please bring more details on the proposed $250,000. So I take it the part that says, please bring more details on the proposed $250,000 is staff direction, correct? That's not.
Yeah, that's not in the work program.
Okay, and in the parenthetical, that's what you want added to the description, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so I'm at 30 seconds. Let me start that up again. Would you like to move that, that change in the staff direction? Would you please move?
Uh, what do you mean?
Well,
Do I
we'll
want to
move it as a
it?
modification so that we can vote on it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second that. All right, Councilmember Moore.
Okay, this item does say staff is to record all resident concerns on a resident concern record. Staff is to add a street image for the 5G cell location and fill out the questionnaire. Too. Staff is to meet with the cell providers monthly or as needed based on additional resident concerns and give the cell provider the sum total of resident concern records and then report back to City Council. Staff is to continue to update the city manager spreadsheet of updated status for nearby cities 5G cells in residential areas. And I didn't hit the top paragraph, but I'll add in the rest of it. Council review existing 5G policy and make alterations as they deem fit.
10 seconds.
Suggested areas to explore spacing between small cells and study the city's ability to mandate multi-tenant small cells. I see no reason to add to this. This is already very.
I'm not modifying that part. I'm modifying the name. Because as we add the contents and you don't modify the name, it's very misleading.
Okay,
Does that
time.
make
Time. Let me go over, we have 2 1-minute increments left from council members Willie and Wei. Did either of you want to speak to this or?
I'll pass my 1 minute to Vice Mayor to let her finish her
Okay,
statement.
well, would you be willing to provide it to Councilmember Moore, since that was actually her initial comment? Or to both of them, Councilmember Willie, since they were engaged in a discussion?
Okay, yeah, both of them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Okay, I'm not, to clarify, I'm just saying the name for this item is incorrect because staff added more details. And this makes the impression that just by revisiting 5G, it's going to cost $250,000. That's misleading because this item actually includes the maintaining record and all this other stuff. So the name should be corrected to
okay, you're at 30
reflect the
seconds. Let me
content.
give the rest to Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Moore, did you want to speak to?
As a matter of principle and with all due respect, I think that we need to respect one another's time. And having a simplified title, I prefer, and I'm glad that staff did that. And I am sorry that we are having to spend our time on this.
Okay,
Look at this title, how long?
all right, so we're at time. Councilmember Wei, you do have a minute left. Did you want to allocate? All right, I would like to suggest, and Vice Mayor Chow, if you would put your screen back up on the proposed language modification. So let me ask, so your request, Vice Mayor Chow, is in that column where it states revisit 5G, and you wanted to add that parenthetical material, correct? Plus recording, responding to complaints, transparency on existing applications. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to call the question on that, as well as with direction to staff to come back and give us more detail on the expenditure of the $250,000. If there are no objections, I'll go ahead and ask the city clerk. I seconded that motion to conduct a roll call vote on this item number 3, modification to the title and follow-up direction as to the expenditures.
Councilmember Moore?
I'm sorry, but Councilmember Wei has her hand raised.
Oh, Councilmember Wei, you have your hand raised? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm concerned the parenthesis is not complete. It should be including but not limited to, if you want a long title, because I'm concerned that if these are just the ones, what if we, have other things that the staff recommends? It's not complete.
This
So
is not meant to be final. I think the staff would come up with better wording. This is just an example to include the other items.
No, I thought we're voting on this as a title.
Yeah,
Okay.
Vice Mayor Chow, let's, if you're okay, but
Yeah, and I would put including but not limited to, recording, if you
yeah,
wanna,
I think the colloquial way of describing it, Vice Mayor Chow, is right, as you're writing it there. Comma recording, and put it to after responding, since we're getting into that. Responding to complaints, not responding complaints. Yeah. Okay, and then, yeah, close, maybe, okay, fine. So I think that's fine, and I'm taking it by your language modification, you're changing your motion. I'll go ahead and second that change. Just confirm, please, that you're changing it to what you see.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second that. Councilmember Way, your hand is still up, and now Councilmember Moore's hand is up. Councilmember Moore?
I would kind of like to just poll council. Do we feel this has been a good use of our time on this item?
No, I think the staff could have finished the modification when we are going back and forth.
I'd like to hear from all the council members. I'm just curious, because if I start doing this type of thing, I'm wondering how the others will think about that.
so my comment is the same. This is the fourth time we're visiting the work plans. If comments like this should have come up a long time ago, it maybe, so I kind of tend to agree with Councilmember Moore.
Okay, Councilmember Willie, did you want to speak to Councilmember Moore's question?
So I'll just say that I share Vice Mayor Chow's concern, having been on the city council now for a little over 2 years, and find that this is the first year that we hope to get quarterly updates. We've never gotten quarterly updates. I've asked for updates, but was told staff doesn't have time for updates. And at the next work plan, we then find out what didn't get done or was done different than our intent. And so this year, I'm putting extra effort in to making the work plan as bulletproof as possible. Not disrespectful to anybody, but it's interpretation, it's subjective. And so if we want the outcome to be what we originally intended, unfortunately, I feel we do need to be pretty darn specific. So I yeah, it takes time, but yeah, so.
Okay, well, Councilmember Willie, I take it as support for the motion on the table.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and support it as well, but that's just a verbalization during discussion. Councilmember Moore, you have your hand raised.
This doesn't say quarterly updates. So if you want quarterly updates at a minimum, you're going to need to specify it, because you're saying that it's not specific enough for your liking. Then you're going to have to change the objective paragraph or yeah.
Oh, no, I thought we were supposed to get quarterly, let me, sorry. Madam City Manager, are we supposed to get quarterly updates for our work plan? I thought that was already instituted, but just not implemented in practice.
Yes, there are items that, remember the whole discussion of quote, what used to be called quote, the top 10? And
Right.
you were supposed to get
Yes.
and you've been getting quarterly updates on those, commensurate with the quarterly budget updates. I also remind council, maybe folks don't go there, but public does, is the work program items are on a dashboard where people can see progress as well, real-time progress. They're updated.
It's
at least
updated quarterly.
Okay, and then also we've been bringing back budget quarterly updates, and there's the CIP dashboard. So there's
And
all
the quarterly updates have been included for the work program with the budget updates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does that suffice with regard to the issue of the quarterly updates? Because it seems like we do have, to a certain degree at least, for the top 10 items, so to speak, those quarterly updates. I'm not so sure, I have visited the dashboard, and I'm not 100% certain that that's assiduously updated over the course of the year. Well, I'll just leave it at that. But with regard to this, Vice Mayor Chow, you did mention, or Councilmember Willie, you did mention a quarterly update. That language, just to be clear, is not in this language here that Vice Mayor Chow is suggesting.
No, when we did the previous work plan meeting, at the very end, I said, you know, quarterly updates for the top 10, which were not previously locked down. I've been requesting them. And at the end of that meeting, you said, great. You said you agree, and it's for the next meeting to discuss.
Right, okay, so Councilmember Willie, let's say that we have an assertion from staff here
Yep.
that those quarterly updates are on an ongoing basis and available in multiple locations. So let's monitor that, because we can't get more than that kind of assurance from our staff. And so we have this motion on the table. It's written, and I would like to ask that we take a vote on it. Are there objections so that we can move on? Okay, so seeing no objections, Madam City Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call vote for the motion on this item number 3?
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
did you say aye?
Yeah, yes, I did. I had some other thoughts, but I said aye.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Way,
Aye.
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chow,
Aye.
Mayor Paul,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's go on to item number 5. It is labeled here on Councilmember Vice Mayor Chow's screen as Lehigh and Stevens Creek. It is also labeled as such in the name column on row 5 of our proposed city work plan. It says Lehigh and Stevens Creek Quarry. Okay, Vice Mayor Chow, what would you like to modify here? You state include the
Could I
staff
just
work.
motion 5, 8, and 12? I think John can add yours later. I know you want to modify 12, but that's just a motion. This one, 3, I proposed the 3, 8, 12 together. I think it's one by one is too slow. So the number 5, I'm just indicating the staff is already doing that we included in the description. The staff is monitoring Lehigh's the development of the new proposed plans. The staff could have better language. And then number 8, I just want to clarify, the current description only talks about plan. It doesn't talk about construction, and it costs $4.6 million. So I think it's misleading, but I think there is already description in CIP. So all staff needs to do is just to copy the staff description from there. So then the two documents are in sync. And then number 12, just want to clarify that we are expecting to start outreach likely in Q3 of this year. I want to put that in so that we won't be like indefinitely waiting. Yeah.
Can you change that to state that with outreach expected to start by Q3 21? With outreach expected, and get rid of will likely to start by, yeah, get rid of start there. Okay, and then just delete the word state after MIDI with outreach, and replace it with add, and then open a quote in front of with, yeah. Okay. And my questions to you, Vice Mayor Chow, are just by way of clarification. On Lehigh and Stevens Creek, when you say include the staff work to monitor Lehigh's proposed plans, when I read number 5 here, what I see under the objective, it states monitor and report on Lehigh and Stevens Creek quarries, including noise and pollution monitoring for these locations. Okay, so what is it that you want to modify in the work plan description? Or is that just a direction to staff to include their work in monitoring Lehigh's proposed plans? I'm just trying to clarify what it is that you're trying to modify here.
I guess monitor and report on Lehigh and Stevens Creek.
Okay, monitor and report on Lehigh and Stevens Creek, but that's already what they're doing here, right? Monitor and report on Lehigh and Stevens Creek quarries is literally the first sentence of the objective description. And then it states includes noise and pollution.
When I read that, I didn't think that includes the proposed plans. But I guess you could say it includes, and
I see what you're saying.
that's
Okay.
fine, yeah. We don't have to add this.
Okay,
Because we can perceive that it includes current and new plans.
okay. Well, I think we all understand that to be the case. So go ahead and delete that if you're fine with it. Okay, so with Memorial Park, let me ask staff if they understand the direction here, because my understanding is that you want to align it with the CIP and just have an explicit reference to that. Is that fair? As long as they reference the CIP in the description as being aligned with this, that will satisfy your requirement here, correct?
So this is the current language. Implement a 6 months and 12 months plan for Memorial Park improvements. There is no construction there, so it's not accurate. But then we do plan construction and a bunch of stuff. It's costing $4.6 million. So I want to be sure that we are not spending $4.6 million for a plan. And the detail, as I understand, is in CIP, so the work will be just to sync up the two documents.
Can you just ask them to add consistent with descriptions from the CIP at the end of your sentence? I'm sorry, just undo that, put it back.
Oh, that's the existing language.
Right, so add at the end of improvements, consistent with descriptions from the CIP after improvements. Would that satisfy what you're trying to accomplish here?
Otherwise,
Descriptions in the CIP?
I wish we want the public to look for the CIP plan. Just copy the whatever description in the CIP plan.
Well, I mean, this is an Excel spreadsheet, right? I mean, I think with reference to, those descriptions might be quite long is the concern, I think.
You mean it could be longer than this? Longer than, there are some very long items already.
No, they're all pretty much within like 5 or 6 lines. I'm just concerned that the CIP descriptions might go, right?
I don't know.
I'm not sure which, yeah, yes, I think it could potentially go longer. Perhaps Director Lee, if you are familiar with the CIP descriptions, you
Think
can.
staff, just be consistent, not verbatim. So staff can shorten it as they need.
Okay, well, then that should track the language that you have there now consistent with, right?
Yep.
Okay,
And simply could be the 3 project names that we are proposing in the CIP, the repurposing of the ponds, the.
I think we're getting the spirit of it. I mean, I assume that this is going to come back to us for final approval based upon our comments here. So Councilmember, Vice Mayor Chow, I think we've captured your sentiment, right? And so you'll have one final right opportunity, right, to go ahead and say, hey, you didn't quite get that right. But let's move on, because I think you've captured, what you want in there, which is consistency with the CIP and language to the extent that they can add it practicably. And so okay, let's put your language back up there on the screen, please.
Okay.
All right. And yeah, I'm not seeing your word. Okay, great. All right. Are there any comments on items number 8 and 12? And Vice Mayor Chow has agreed to remove 5 as understood. I don't see any hands raised. Oh, there is from Councilmember Roy.
Yes, but we still need to vote on 5, right? Because we did not vote on 5 on the previous motion.
Oh, good point.
With no addition or no added.
Yeah, good point. Vice Mayor Chow, let's go ahead and add 5 to your motion as written, okay? Since we're not modifying it. Okay, great, thank you. And I'll keep that as a second. All right. Add more details consistent with descriptions. Okay, great.
Mayor, if I may, I heard a comment that you thought this would come back for final approval at another night, but
And it's not.
It's not.
I think the proposed action is to approve it tonight. And so if we can nail down any language, I think that would probably be the most efficient thing to do. We could, of course, always bring it back another time, but I think staff was not intending to do that.
Understood. Well, thank you for clearing that up, that misconception up in my mind on this third night of council meetings.
I can understand.
It's been a very eventful week. Okay, let's go ahead and see if, okay, first of all, Vice Mayor Chow, do you want that specific language in there, or would you entrust that task to staff to put in, you know, those headings and descriptions?
I trust the staff, I think.
Okay, is that sufficient, Madam City Attorney? I think, you know, I think.
Yes, I think we could say it's consistent with the, you're approving it as the Director of Public Works will update.
Yeah, I found it is kind
description.
of long.
Okay,
so this is a description. It is kind of long. So I trust the staff to maybe shorten it, maybe at least include this title.
Well, exactly. That's what Director Lee just mentioned.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. Yeah, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and I don't see. Well, actually, I do. So, Councilmember Willie and Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Willie.
Yeah. So, on the one hand, I'm okay with what Vice Mayor Chow has written for number 12. My comment is, you know, I'd like to see things, you know, get moving. The sooner the better. And the comment then is that the Lawrence Mitty Park does not have any parking. So it truly is intended for the Rancho area that has very small lots. Most of them are substandard sized lots, only 5,000 square feet. And so the use of the Lawrence Mitty Park is pretty much going to be predominantly the Rancho, which has 1,200 homes. Outside residents will most likely choose to stop at Creekside Park. The reason I think this is important is that I feel Public Works can start sending out flyers and get a small survey going for the Rancho area and ask the Rancho area what types of features are going to bring you to this, cause you to walk or bike ride to Lawrence Mitty. And I just don't see that needs to wait, you know, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months out. So that's my comment. I'm okay with leaving it with what Vice Mayor Chow has said, but I would like to alert that Public Works to, you know, what I see as the reality of a park without parking spaces.
Well, thank you for that comment, Councilmember Woolley, and thank you for allowing us to have that comment made as a expectation to have Public Works taking that under advisement as we sit here tonight. Councilmember Moore, you have your hand raised.
Okay, and I'm, sorry to bring this up, but as a matter of course, we have these items which happen to also reside in the CIP budget. And the kinds of information that the CIP budget would have would be the project summary, the objectives, the existing situation, goal and policy links, project work completed to date, environmental review, project constraints and limitations, stakeholders, project phasing and funding sources. All of those details go in there. So I'm kind of wondering process-wise, does it even make sense for us on these items to get hyper detail oriented with them, because there's multiple ones which connect to the CIP, or what does staff recommend that we do here so that we're not having essentially cutting and pasting all of that information into the work plan?
That's a great question, Councilmember Moore. I mean, and it's a legitimate one. Do we envision a consistent process rather than piecemealing those references on a item by item basis. Director Lee or City Manager Fung, did you want to speak to City Manager Fung?
Just a, short comment that staff has always recommended that CIP items go in CIP and the work program items stay there. However, council has had a strong desire to watch the work program as a way to monitor certain things. So that's why you have CIPs in the work program. They really should be, from a staff perspective, separate.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I disagree.
Well, Vice Mayor Chao, let me just make a quick comment. I'm fine with supporting the motion as it is because there's a defining of priorities that we'd like to, see in there explicitly under the work program and get ongoing updates on. So Vice Mayor Chao, you have your hand raised.
So the way I see it, if a project is designed, all you need to do is construction. It's okay that it sits in CIP. But then if a project still needs planning, community outreach, council input, then it's better sits in the work program. Then because it gets the visibility from the council. It's not just in the operation that's implemented. So there are stages. Yeah, once the design is done, it moves to CIP. But before that, it should live in the work program. That's my idea. I understand it needs to be in CIP because budgetary reasons. It needs to have a list there for budget. Yeah, so.
Okay. And Councilmember Moore, you have your hand up again.
Okay, just for some more edification from staff, with regards to the CIP, why is the CIP treated differently?
Good question. Councilmember Fung.
Like we review it, we review it separately. I believe the CIP was at the Planning Commission tonight for review. I think it was. So why? All right, so there's some state law, I think, which is governing this process, which is why it's pulled out differently. And for me, when I think about the capital improvements that we have, those are separate from some of these other projects, like maybe the homeless jobs program is not a capital improvement. And so anyway, if you wanted to share some more information about why the process is done the way it is.
I can answer part of that, and then I think Roger was planning on adding to that. So CIPs go to the Planning Commission, not for approval of the projects, but for a check on conformance to the general plan. So that's what happened the other night. And Roger, if you wanted to add why they're separated.
Yes, thank you. And it did go to there last night. There's just a major investment with capital improvement projects. It's just been the history, with Cupertino and other agencies that as the operating budget goes through, in parallel, the CIP projects are reviewed. And we time it so that we have the study session and we get your input and we then bring that in with the operating budget at the same time. That's just the practice I've always seen as to why they're handled separately because of the investment that's involved.
Okay, so you're not aware of any state law that says that there needs to be a tie-in legally with the general plan and capital improvement projects, because it seemed as though this came through the Planning Commission at one point, and we had a statement of not conformance because of the parkland equity. It might have been one of our early decisions there. I was just kind of wondering about that.
Well, it is in the purview and in our ordinance, and I believe there's something higher that says that from the Planning Commission that they are to look at our proposed CIP to determine if they are in conformance with the general plan. So that is a requirement that's outside of the budget process, and that is what we did last night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. All right, so Councilmember Wade, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. I have a quick question. Even if a program is in the CIP, but not on the city work program, but if it needs, is in the planning stage and needs proposals and needs city council approvals, we'll still see it, right? In the approval process, instead of, even if it's not in the construction process, any CIA plan that that needs to be vetted through the council, we're still going to see it.
Oh, yes, and that's common for feasibility studies, design, construction, all those things. And you see that in our 15 proposed projects, those types of varieties. You will see it. And that'll happen if it's on the work plan or not. That's our CIP process.
Right, so even if it's not on the work plan, we still get to see it. So why does some of them on the work plan, some of them not?
It's just at your discretion and priority that you want to see them.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, and the only thing I would add is that there's nothing precluding us from putting particular items on work plan, you know, where we see fit to put them there. So Vice Mayor Chow, I'm gonna go ahead and call your question, seeing if there are no further objections to it. Director Lee, you.
Yeah, and just for clarification, because I want to make sure that you understand what number 5, the Lehigh item is. It's for the monitoring of noise and air pollution. That is the work plan item. If you're concerned about how we've been reporting out on the reclamation plan amendments and the different use permits as we've been doing, that's not what number 5 is about. And if you want it to be, it's currently not about the reclamation plan amendments and work.
Well, thank you for that clarification. I think that might warrant a revisitation. But I think that we were receiving those updates, and your point is, this item is not as envisioned encompassing those particular updates. So I see Councilmember Willie with his hand up.
I was just going to point out that, you know, that Roger's been doing a great job of giving us quarterly email on the status of the permits and reclamation. So that, you know, there's no reason to bring that in under the envelope. So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Councilmember Willie. And so, all right, finally, we do have the motion on the table. I think it has appeared. We've seen it. Vice Mayor Chow, if you'd like to share it again, please feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to ask our city clerk, Madam City Clerk, to conduct a roll call vote on the motion that's on the table.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Way?
Aye.
Councilmember Willie?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chow?
Aye.
Great,
Mayor
thanks
Paul?
for sharing.
Mayor Paul?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so now we're on to item number 19, and that's the climate action plan. And,
Sorry,
yes.
one comment. I looked up CIP for Lawrence and Mitty. In the CIP table, it does include the programming, outreach, and design.
Okay,
So,
great.
okay.
Okay, so now we're on to item number 19, the climate action plan. That was requested by Councilmember Willie. Councilmember Willie, did you want to share with us what you'd like modified or with regard to direction to staff on this item?
Yeah, in fact, if I could enlist the help of Vice Mayor Chow, I think she has the document at her fingertips. If she could just kind of pull up 19, I think it helps. And hopefully Andre is still with us, because, you know, it's kind of a little bit of a discussion with Andre.
Great,
So,
I see that he's turned on his camera, so he's there.
Great. So, you know, climate action plan, I'm so happy that we have this in our work plan. You know, the climate is changing. We've got to start addressing it. In theory, this sounds pretty good. In practicality, how is our community going to really make a change? That's the question that I see. Now, my comments, if somebody can figure out how to roll them into this, great. Otherwise, now's my opportunity to share my comments with Andre. So with what's written here, yep, that complies with the state law requires addressing and adaptation, resiliency. But if we were to quantify this so that the residents of Cupertino, because we're talking about how can Cupertino contribute to climate action, and so if we were to quantify the carbon footprint for a typical house in Cupertino, let's say 2,000 square feet, two-car garage, 15,000 miles a year of travel, gas and electric appliances, and said your carbon footprint, and you multiply that times our 23,000 households, your carbon footprint is X. And then if you install solar panels, if you get a Tesla, each one of those are going to reduce your carbon footprint as an individual and rolled up into the community's, Cupertino's carbon footprint. I feel that is going to get residents to say, I want to change my carbon footprint from X amount to this, and I'm going to choose to do it by replacing one of my gas vehicles with a Tesla, or I'm going to install solar panels on the roof. So my hope is that Andre can work with that and come to something that the community can really understand, and then I think they'll step up and start replacing those vehicles and adding solar panels and getting rid of the gas water heaters, things like that, which as it's written here, it does what the state's requiring. I don't see that Cupertino's carbon footprint is going to shrink appreciably based on this work plan item. They may do it relative to concerns about climate change, but not necessarily. This is a work plan item. How can we help our community? So again, I can't really put that into a change to this, but if somebody could, that'd be great. Otherwise, food for thought for Andre.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Woolley. Andre, did you want to speak to Councilmember Woolley's comments?
Sure. Good evening. Andre Board Sustainability Manager. Great comments, Council Member. I think the thing I'd point to is that the Cupertino Climate Action Plan 1.0 that was developed in 2014, it really did create an appreciable change in our carbon footprint. We do conduct inventories, what are known as carbon greenhouse gas inventories, on a periodic basis. And we really have seen quite a change. In fact, we hit our targets a couple years early. So that necessitates this process to update the plan. We don't update the plan every year. This is a major effort that only comes typically every 5 to 7 years has been typical for California cities lately. In between those periods, what we do is we operate a number of portfolio programs in order to address a lot of the behavior change items that you mentioned. Consumer choices being a huge part of it, transportation choices another. So I think it's a great set of comments, and this item is on the work program as a continuation, because we really did want to highlight that this is going to be a major community-based effort. You take a look at our website and our data dashboards on our greenhouse gas inventories, you can see there has been quite a bit of change in Cupertino driven by the community. And this next climate action plan will really kind of define the terms of that and define Cupertino's priorities in which actions we should put our focus into, not only from city actions, but what programs should we be promoting for resident action.
Yeah, the comment I would make though is that, yeah, dashboards are fine, but how many residents, have time or interest for a dashboard? I'll use a very quick example. About 20 years ago, PG&E sent out a postcard that showed at that point in time a furnace was about $1 an hour or 75 cents an hour, and a space heater was about 15 cents an hour. I went out and bought a whole bunch of space heaters, and we still use them today. And very seldom do we turn on our whole house furnace. 2,000 square foot house. Why would I heat the whole thing when we're in the family room watching TV? If you were able to give that type of a postcard out to people, what's the carbon footprint difference, the gas vehicle versus the Tesla? Things of that nature
Okay,
that would then.
John, please wrap up. I
Yeah.
did want to give people fair time to go over
Yeah,
these
so
items,
that
but you've
that
had
type
well in
of
excess of the
okay.
the initial time allocated.
So if that could be included in this work plan item, it would be great. If we can't do it tonight, I'm fine.
Great, thank
Just
you, John.
comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Woolley. Councilmember Way has her hand raised, followed by Councilmember Moore. Councilmember
Thank you,
Way.
Mayor Paul. Councilmember Willie, great comments. This is the update on the 2.0 plan. Once we have the plan, our actions, implementations, our work plans will follow this. So we need this because the 1.0 is 2014, which we did a lot already. So this work plan is to implement this plan. And then with implementations, like what you said, they will come. I think our work plans will follow this, and our actions, our implementations, our advocacy groups, sustainability commissions, that's where we're going to follow this plan. So we need to have this plan first. And I think everything you said will come after that.
Thank you, Councilmember Way. I want to take this opportunity very briefly. Councilmember Moore, you did have your hand raised. Did you still want to speak on this item?
I haven't heard a motion to actually alter the objective here. I have gone through it's about 470 pages, the current climate action plan. I'm not really quickly able to pull up the most recent update that you have on it. I could find the 2018 one, but it's really comprehensive, and I think that Councilman Willie has some great ideas, and they'll be terrific once we've got that process going to, bring them up and how to get people really charged up. Excuse the pun, and moving along with this in the future. But I'm not seeing a motion to alter this item at this point.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. I appreciate everyone's comments. Your comments are, I think, accurate. There is not a motion to alter the item, but there has been an opportunity to share comments and commitment to that. And Andre, thank you for everything that you do for our city and the environment. I want to take this very brief opportunity to thank you as well, and sustainability for your consistent efforts throughout the year. I know that there is virtually infinite outreach that one can do to the public with regard to the measures that we're taking and what we can do. One of the invitations to speak that I've had over the course of the past half year was to a youth environmental group, and Andre and your division really helped a lot with regard to being able to add substance with respect to what the city is doing and what resources are available from the city. I just want to share very briefly to speak to Councilmember Willie's points. Some of the things that we do have in our city: water conservation. There's this website, the workshops on greening Cupertino. And here is available the Green Prime Electricity, of course, through Silicon Valley Clean Energy, an entity that we're integrally involved in creating. And finally, we have a Cupertino Climate Challenge available on the website as well. So we are doing a number of outreach measures, and so there's no perfect information and perfect outreach all the time, but I think the point is really well taken that we can keep striving, right, to get that message out there, and even what we're talking about right now helps to put that into place. So by way of thank you, and by way of thanking Councilmember Willie for shining some extra light on this tonight, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up on item number 19. And Councilmember Willie, did you want to speak to item number 26, which was the other item that you had identified for
Yeah,
the
and
discussion.
Excuse me, Mayor Paul, you did miss one of the really important ones, which is the actual climate action page. And it has the progress reports and the greenhouse gas emission interactive map in there, which is kind of cool. But there's like a whole nother place with a ton of information in it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that plug. And this was more in the context of reaching out to the environmental group to say, what can you be doing directly to, more of the interactive kind of idea that Councilmember Woolley was speaking about in part of his remarks. But yes, absolutely, the resources are out there, and we've done I think, excellent job of pushing the envelope. We are so advanced as a jurisdiction on issues of climate change and climate action. That I don't want that to get lost, that point. And again, thank you for all the work that has been done by our staff over the years on this, as well as the members of our city. So item number 26 was investigating alternatives to City Hall. Did you want to speak to this or modify the item in any manner, Councilmember Willie, having pulled this item?
true. Mayor, you actually brought, item 26 up early on and pretty much described what I would be saying. Hopefully I capture the same essence. You had said, there's a couple other City Hall in the CIP, but for the work plan, we just have this one. And so for number 26, for transparency to our residents, either number one, we remove 26, or number two, we change the title to minor renovations to City Hall if the city manager and Public Works, now that we have the other Tory building, if they say, gee whiz, we'd really like to do some renovation to increase our capacity at City Hall or upgrade the HVAC, I'm okay with leaving this money. But in general, I believe in a very clean budget. If it's not something that's going to be acted on in the next 12 months, it should be removed and the money put back in the respective bucket.
Let me ask if you would be okay with the following motion to change this language in the objective to add, quote, remove current allocations for a new city hall from the budget, period, end quote.
And then that would remove item 26?
Well, that would just modify it to make sure that we are no longer allocating money for it. Investigating the alternatives, that's not addressed in my sentence modification under the objective. In which case, I guess you would say, I don't know how you turn it into do not investigate alternatives to City Hall. Perhaps you would turn it into a particular direction, such as investigate seismic retrofits and upgrades, updates to City Hall.
And then put in parentheses, formerly investigate new City Hall. I mean, if the city manager feels that you have to retain something of the original title because that's what the work plan item was, I'm fine with that. Put it in parentheses that it formerly was that. It's not that anymore. Now it's going to be investigate the seismic upgrade.
Okay, let me try to see if I can capture this language here. So in the name, it would be investigate seismic retrofits and upgrades
Great.
to existing City Hall. And then I'll share my screen after this is typed. And then it's in the parenthetical, formerly, quote, investigate alternatives to City Hall.
Yep.
Okay. And then in the objective, it would then become examine seismic retrofits and upgrades to existing city hall.
Yep,
And then the other sentence, retrofits and upgrades to existing city hall. And then add, remove allocations from budget to a new city hall. Okay, I'll go ahead and share this. This is item number 26. The description, the name. All right.
well, does,
Right, I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
share this material here.
but does Director Lee need the 25,000 for that investigation?
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple just comments on this. So we have a proposed CIP project to do, investigate and look at doing exactly what you're saying with the seismic upgrades or whatever City Hall may be, and more generally just to look at the programming of what council may want City Hall to be in the future as well. And the idea of leaving this item in the work plan is perhaps that programming will end up that City Hall is somewhere else, and there could be other building opportunities within the city that you'd want us to act on. And so what's in the work plan now says that alternatives are part of the CIP now, because one alternative would be City Hall will be exactly where it is, and we renovate it and we upgrade it. Another alternative may be that we get into a Class A building half a block down, and it's exactly what council would like. And so this is a placeholder as this programming goes through. We're not spending those dollars, but we're keeping our ears to the ground.
Yeah, I just can't support thinking that we're going to move City Hall. I think it sends the wrong message to the community. It was something that the previous city council considered. If the rest of the council feels differently, then so be it. But to me, it's not the right thing.
So Councilmember Willie, I'll delete the word investigate from name, and I agree with what you're saying. This is a policy decision, and if that's the will of the council, to look at this exclusively, then that's the will of the council. So I'll go ahead and share that language. Oh boy. All right, hopefully. That might not be it. Sorry. One moment. Okay, I think this is it. Are you looking at 26 name, seismic retrofits and upgrades to existing city hall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, formally investigate alternatives to City Hall with the objective being examine seismic retrofits and upgrades to existing City Hall, remove allocations from budget to a new City Hall. If you're moving that as a modification, item 26,
Yes,
obviously that's a bit of a downgrade from the scope of the previous one, so there shouldn't be an issue with achievability. I will go ahead and second your motion.
Great.
Let me go ahead and stop the share because I see Councilmember Moore has her hand raised. Councilmember Moore.
Okay, well, actually, could you please, Mayor Paul, go back and share your motion with regards to the budget allocation, because that ties back into what I was commenting on at the very start of this meeting. Okay, so it's the top, I gather. Name is what you're looking for. Which one of these is your motion? The objective here is this, the second one is what you want, to remove the allocations from budget to a new city hall. Is that correct? Okay, so when I looked at the budget carryover from.
Can I answer your question before you go on?
There's more money that was allocated. I was mentioning the interim city hall, new city hall, and there was also City Hall and Permit Center remodel allocation in the budget. So you had a lot of, you had the $4 million. 4 million, almost even $4 million. So there's more than just the allocations for budget to new city hall. It includes a interim city hall for $565,000, and then city hall and permit center remodels. So I don't know if you're trying to remove all of those parts.
No, I'm not removing the interim part because it may well be the case that if we're conducting a seismic retrofit and upgrading existing city hall, we'll need to have an interim city hall in order to conduct that work. And because we've obtained 10,455, that's a potential alternative.
Sure.
But I see that as a different bucket of
Okay.
allocations.
Okay, and what about the city hall and the permit center remodels? Should that be tied into your seismic retrofit and upgrade? So when you're talking about upgrade, do you mean upgrade plus remodel?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe say that and just leave this 45,000 already appropriated. It just seems a little odd to have this hanging out there in the budget carryover amount.
I'm sorry, the 45,000 was for what again?
City Hall and Permit Center remodels, budget carryover from the general fund.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, because that's not an allocation for a budget to a new city hall. That's a remodel of the existing, which is captured in this first sentence now.
Okay, so you're going to leave the 45,000 that's already appropriated.
Yes, explicitly, yes.
Okay, we'll clean it up.
That's captured by this.
Great, you can clean it up later if need be.
Okay, and to answer your initial question, this entire set of language is my motion because the name is currently investigate alternatives.
All right. Well, I had a little interruption here. Do you have a second or need one? We're all good?
I seconded Councilmember Woolley's motion.
Okay, you've got a second, and okay, let's move on.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Way?
Yes, can I ask a clarification question? So
Yes.
remove the budget. How much is the budget that's being proposed to be removed?
It's about 4 million. It's 3 point something plus 400,000 something.
Okay, that's not enough to remodel the city hall, right?
Yeah, well, so Councilmember Way, what it was some initial work that the city was contractually obligated to do at specific amounts when we had a Valco specific plan, and then the developer would come in and make what was colloquially known as a warm shell, and then we would go and put in the rest. But that plan doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, so that's history I did not know. And my other question is, now, if once we get the retrofit, how much it's cost, where would the budget come from if we decide to do it?
That's a great question, Councilmember Way. And, the question of money has come up, a number of times over the course of last several months. We're actually in a much better fiscal position than we were when the pandemic started. There are multiple reasons for that I won't get into. But yes, there are prospective, issues with the economy that we need to keep working on like we are. But we don't have 40 million or 45 million in cash laying around. That's true. In terms of where that money will come from, that is something that needs to be determined. That's not being allocated here, of course. This is similar to the other item where we're, looking into it. And, of course, we're not looking to, complete this work in 1 year or making an allocation for it, to complete it. We're simply saying, okay, the new city hall stuff, let's take away that as an allocation. And there are other items that are more minor, right? Work on this aspect of city hall for a potential upgrade or remodeling. Those still exist.
All right, thank you, Mayor Paul. So one more follow-up question. So how much is budget for this this project?
Well, staff will have to help me out here, or maybe Councilmember Moore, who seemed to have the numbers in her mind.
25,000, I believe. I can double check, but I'm pretty sure that's what you're at.
And I think
25.
if you're potentially including 10455 Torrey Avenue, I think it's a capital improvement project that has approximately 3 million put into it. So I mean, that could be implicated, right? Because that's new civic space. And if we're looking at, you know, in interim space, that's an obvious, first resort.
Okay,
Um,
for clarification, this project is $25,000.
for the remodeling of,
No, for the
of-
seismic investigation, for this specific plan that we're planning. The
I'm
20,
not really expecting it to be that much other than an update to what we've already investigated, because that possibility has been looked into in the past with the city civic center master plans. So I don't, I mean, staff can, jump in, but I wouldn't expect considerable allocations needed. And it might be put on hold due to materials costs, elevating, but yeah, to proceed with at least dusting off the old studies, so to speak, and trying to see what the upgraded cost estimate might be, I think is essentially what we're saying here. It's certainly, the scope is much less than investigating the alternatives to new city hall, such as, maybe putting it somewhere else, or, land swaps, et cetera,
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Councilmember Way. I don't see other hands raised at this point. And so I'll go ahead and ask our city clerk to conduct a roll call vote on the motion on the table.
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Way,
I,
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chow,
Aye.
Mayor Paul,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
Okay, very good. For my part, I know I suggested a couple of items, and they're still there with regard to the pandemic reemergence program. I hear what people are saying about the drone show. They have, concerns about the costs. I haven't heard a lot of overwhelming enthusiasm from my fellow council members, so I'm going to take that off the table. I think it's something that's worthy of investigating, and perhaps our future city manager could be availed upon to look into it, as we're talking about for July 2022. But I don't want that to become a financial sticking point. With regard to the other suggestion to allocate to our commissions some funding related to this, I feel heartened by staff's consideration of the notion of thinking about how we reemerge. And I really appreciate the language that they put forward in the staff report here, stating that as we reemerge, we'll be doing a lot of these things as a matter of course. What I would ask is that we do have a follow-up to our commissions and ask them, if you had some budget, what would you like to do? Because that's something that can certainly be visited during the course of our year. But it was a thought that I had, and I still stand by the idea that some allocation at this time could really go a long way to making sure that we reemerge as safely and successfully as possible. But at the same time, I don't want to turn it into a sticking point. So, I'll go ahead and remove those with under advisement. Councilmember Moore, you have your hand raised at this point. But I'm going to go ahead and move that we take those off of the work plan, in fact. Did you want to second that?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any discussion at this point with regard to those ideas? Vice Mayor Chow.
So you are taking off road to the prep program? You're removing
The commission
that?
engagement aspect of it, yes, I am. I would be open, in fact, actually, to modifying the amount, maybe 10,000 per commission, such that the overall amount is a much more modest 100,000.
Okay, can I comment on that?
Of course, yeah, this is the time, because there's that motion.
So I was going to propose an amendment to this item that it requires council approval, and the funding is meant for economic stimulus and an investment in our business. while benefiting residents at the same time. I think that's the intent of this item. So the idea that somehow the city didn't allocate this for the business directly, well, this is meant to actually bring business, and this will, all this money should be spent on investing, even bring business to our business people. It's just right now it's not paid directly, so they pay salary. No, this is so this is a better stimulus than the previous one where we just pay them money to pay salary. You know, this is
Vice Mayor Chow,
regenerating.
I appreciate the comment, but as the originator of the topic, I just want to clarify that I did not intend this exclusively as economic stimulus. We have 10 commissions, and they are bike ped, fine arts, housing, library, parks and rec, planning, public safety, sustainability, teen and TIC, the Technology Information Communication Commission. And so I think that covers a wide breadth of topics and material. And so I really intended those, individual allocations to be topical within the context of reemerging from the pandemic. And certainly economic stimulus, to the extent that you describe it, is a legitimate allocation under the broad parameters, but it wasn't intended to be exclusively economic. But in any event, my motion on the table is just to remove it for now and take it under advisement. I hope it's an idea that can keep gestating, with the idea that, well, once you put the allocations of funding directly into the hands of the elected officials and their appointees, perhaps you do end up getting much better value for your dollar. But in any event, if you wanted to make a substitute motion, I'd be happy to entertain it. But that's my motion on the table at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Moore, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just want to, as a friendly reminder, we did approve the single-use plastics ordinance and Mayor's Cup Challenge event, which is going to be a good bit of work. And also, we do need a economic development manager and have a strong set of goals and strategy there, and there might be a way that once we have that established, that there's a joint meeting between some of the commissions and the manager, and make some helpful discussion to try to take care of the objectives that you're looking for, and allocate funds at some other time.
I appreciate the discussion and the sentiment. I agree largely with what you're saying. And, for me, it wasn't about the allocation of funding. It was about putting the ideas out there. And so I think a good idea does not die. It just floats around until it finds an appropriate vehicle to move forward. So, I appreciate those thoughts in closing. So, Madam City Clerk, I don't see any other hands raised. I'd like to move forward with a vote with the motion on the table.
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Way,
I'm sorry, what's the motion on the table?
It's to remove these allocations,
Oh,
essentially. Remove the items from the proposed city work
Okay,
program.
all right.
Yeah.
Councilmember Way, did you say aye?
Yes, aye.
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chow,
Aye.
Mayor Paul,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so now we're at two items that were not prioritized. They're at the very top of page 2 of attachment A. They are named respectively RENA-related general plan updates and rezoning. And the second one is the sign ordinance update. Did anyone want to speak to those? I see Councilmember Moore's hand raised.
I move that we approve the work plan items, attachment A, page 2, row 1 and row 2. And anyway, I hope I have a second. However, I wish we could bill HCD for item 1.
I'll go ahead and second your motion, Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Way, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I have a question. I thought these are required by law that whether we move it, second it, approve it or not, it's gonna be done. So do we really have to move second, approve it?
I
I
think they
believe
weren't ranked
including
as,
it, approving it would include it in our work program updates and all of that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, strictly speaking, probably not, but it's probably a good thing to put in the work program, right?
Okay,
It's a recognition of our legal requirements and, yeah. Okay, thanks, Councilmember Way. Vice Mayor Chow.
I have a question. So we have 6 items that are not numbered.
Mhm.
And then the first 2 are taken off. We approve the third one for the, wait, what did we do?
With some modifications, yes.
So we approved the third one with some modification. What did we do for number 4?
Oh, that's a
Which
fine
is-
question. We didn't, we didn't get to 10455 Torrey Avenue.
Okay.
Let's get to that after this item.
Okay, and then
Okay.
some, no, now it's number 5 and 6, that's not, numbered, okay.
Right. Okay, thanks for pointing that out. I don't see any other hands raised at this point. And so, Madam City Clerk, can you please conduct a roll call vote on these items and the motion on the table?
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Way,
I,
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chow,
Aye.
Mayor Paul,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
Okay, I see that Councilmember Moore has her hand raised. Did you want to speak to this item, the 10455 Torrey Avenue item? And let me just read the objective. Program plan and build facility improvements, including seismic utility and ADA upgrades as required for interim facility to accommodate staff while City Hall is remodeled, as well as the long-term use of this facility. The scope of work will include programming, planning, design, and construction with an estimated budget of $3 million. Councilmember Moore, did you want to speak to this item?
Okay, so I would like to move that we approve item 4, page 1 of attachment A, that's row 4, with the modification that we strike as required for interim facility to accommodate staff while City Hall is remodeled.
Councilmember Moore, may I ask why you're suggesting that we strike that language?
I would, if we choose, if staff chooses that that's an acceptable location to be at, that might work, but it's too small to work for if City Hall is undergoing extensive remodeling. Plus, we did leave the $400 and something thousand in the carryover budget for an interim City Hall that was not struck. So we did allocate funds for something. So I'm just not sure that we want to require this, and I don't know what the building is like inside, if it would even work. So that's something I would want the city management to take a look at and make that determination themselves. I'm not comfortable saying that. I don't know what any condition is like in there. So we need to figure that out.
Okay, let me try to capture this then, because it's not quite just the striking of that language. So let's see, program, plan, and build facility improvements, including seismic. Sorry, my brain is not connecting my fingers and typing right now. And ADA upgrades as, okay, so no as required, comma, for the long-term use of this facility, period. The scope of work will include programming, planning, design, construction. Okay. All right. Program, plan, and build facility improvements, including seismic, utility, and ADA upgrades, comma, for the long-term use of this facility. The scope of work will include programming, planning, design, and construction. Okay, so I'll just call this attachment A, row 4, and I'll go ahead and share my screen again here. Try to scroll this down a bit so that you're only seeing
Okay.
this.
Mayor Paul, what we get from this non-specific final requirement of this building is the flexibility to take this back to council and have a discussion and have the community involved for what is going to be there, because there was talk about which the vice mayor was suggesting potentially having a store there or use it for some other programming or things of that nature. So if you leave it vague at this point, we can have the discussion later. I don't think it is in our best interest right now at this hour to get into a lengthy discussion about what will ultimately end up there. So I don't even want to start us down that path. That's it.
Well, Councilmember Moore, based upon your comments, would you accept this additional language, public outreach before programming? Because that was discussed previously when we had the work plan discussion.
Well, I'm just worried. I'm worried that that we're gonna end up walking down a path where we're arguing over whether or not it should be a store. Was it ever discussed to be a store there? No. So yeah, I think public outreach is great. Sure.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and second your motion. So that's to change the objective to this language here. Okay, I'll stop share because that's been captured. I see a hand raised from Vice Mayor Chow. Vice Mayor Chow?
Yeah. So I was going to suggest something as seen on the screen. First, the name should be changed to, this is what I got from the CIP program. So right now here it only says 10445 Torrey Avenue and then nothing. So I think we should be consistent with CIP with improvements, minor alterations, programming, and feasibility. And then for objective, I hope to add, so at the last sentence, scope of work will include programming, planning, design, and construction, and also consider the possibility of accommodating Cupertino store, small business center, and historic museum with community outreach.
I would be fine with changing the name to what you describe. I think adding public outreach to Councilmember Moore's language potentially encompasses what you're describing there. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to call out specific items that might, end up not being taken up, but can be taken up under a more general description of the activity. So if everyone's okay with it, what I would suggest is that I don't know about minor alterations though. Okay, Vice Mayor Chow, I mean, they might not be minor alterations. The process might decide that, we want to make relatively significant alterations.
I just copied that from CIP.
Okay, oh.
You can modify however you want.
Oh, I'd like to delete that actually. So Torrey Avenue improvements, I'm going to just call it programming and feasibility. And so I'll share this and ask, and thanks for your point there. That's actually a good one. These things evolve, right? So Councilmember Moore, would you be okay with changing the name here to 10455 Torrey Avenue improvements, programming and feasibility, and the rest with the objective is the same as we had discussed previously?
Yes, that's fine. We've only had the CIP study session, so I guess an ask would be to ensure that the language isn't conflicting between what we're doing here tonight and what's already in the CIP study session documentation when it gets back to us, which means specifically that the title matches. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead and second that direction of staff to ensure no conflict with the CIP language. There's that objective. Vice Mayor Chow, your hand is
Oh.
still up at this point. Did you?
So regarding the direction, no conflict, do you mean this should conform with CIP or CIP should conform with this? CIP should conform with this, right?
I want this, yes, I want this title
Yeah,
to be
so
what
maybe-
they have in this instance. Yeah.
Mhm. So that
Okay.
should be clarified because the other items we are saying to conform with CIP.
Okay, how about this? Ensure conformance with CIP language. How about
But
that?
no, not with this. Ensure CIP language conforms with this description. Or language in CIP plan, yeah.
Okay, so that's what I have. Councilmember Moore, are you okay with that language? Okay,
Yes.
I don't, sorry, let me stop the share so I can see the hands. There are no hands raised. I don't see who was speaking a moment ago. I'll go ahead and
I would
ask.
say, yes, it's great.
Okay, thanks, Councilmember Moore. Madam City Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call vote on this item?
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Way,
Aye.
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chow,
I
Mayor Paul,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
All right, I want to thank all of you again wholeheartedly. I know that I set it out as gratitude as the theme of our of my year as mayor, and truly I am very grateful. This is an amazing palette of items. I mean, just the items that we went over in the last six encompasses such a broad reach of activities, and that's 6 out of some 55 items. So thank you so much. I know we'll continue to get through this and emerge from the pandemic, and we'll be, as usual, going gangbusters and setting paradigms for the world, et cetera, et cetera. But after 3 subsequent nights, sequential nights of council meetings, doing very significant things for our community, I want to say thank you, and we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Mayor Paul,
Yes, Madam City
so
Clerk.
sorry to interrupt, but I don't think item 19 has been approved yet.
Item 19. Okay, so let's take a look at item 19.
Councilmember Willie initially had changes, but then he agreed that there were no changes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move that item 19 be, thank you, Madam City Clerk, that item 19 be approved as written in the current draft of the work plan attachment A. Councilmember Way?
Oh, I'll second that.
Okay, great. I don't see any other hands raised at this point. And so, Madam City Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call vote on this item?
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Way,
Aye.
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Chow,
I
Mayor Paul,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Well, full speed ahead, folks. And our next regularly scheduled council meeting is going to be next Tuesday. That's June 1st at 6:45 p.m. Until then, thank you very much. Good night. And our special meeting of May 26th is adjourned. Take care.
Good night.